Are you sick of real estate agents saying that there are opportunities out there for you in the market no matter what the market's doing? I mean, today's market is terrible, right? And that must mean that there are absolutely no good buys out there at all. In fact, the most common thing you'll hear from people not in the market during a market like this is that they will refer to you or anybody buying a property now as trying to catch a falling knife. Generally, those people are referred to in the real estate space as bears. But on a recent episode of the Tom Storey show, we got a chance to sit down with possibly the most bearish real estate agent in the entire country. And he said this.
A lot of people mention when you get these gurus who are talking about and they'll say oh, don't invest in real estate right now, and then they go and buy 10 properties. I wouldn't necessarily want to be that guy, right? So reality is there are deals to be found in every market. I think a lot of people want to use the market only goes up thesis, or the idea of whether or not the market's going up and down, because it simplifies the process of buying, the decision-making process of buying. It's oh, market up, okay, I'm interested. Market down, okay, now I'm not. But the reality is, if you're willing to put in the work, the hard work of analyzing hundreds of deals, putting out hundreds of offers, and maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but analyzing 10, 20 deals and really pushing to try and get yourself a good deal, the best deals happen on a deal by deal basis. And if you have good representation and you have a good market thesis and you're good at analyzing deals and finding good ones and picking good ones, then I think that the market is already full of opportunity. Most people just don't want to start looking under all of those rocks to find it.
That was Daniel Foch of Royal LePage in Ontario, and you should go back and watch that full episode because he has some really good things to say about the current market. Now, what Dan really means is that you have to analyze each and every purchase on a deal-by-deal basis, and that often there are purchases out there that make a lot of sense. Specifically, one thing he looks for while investing is single-family detached homes on busy streets. And while you and I don't want to live in a detached home on a busy street because it's not super fun to live there ourselves, and our kids can't go out and play in what would be better for us, a nice quiet cul-de-sac, Dan actually knows that often those homes can sell for less. Then he can even add value to them by converting them into duplexes. And he knows that density is more likely to be increased on busy streets than it is in the quiet cul-de-sac that you and I might prefer. Meaning that his strategy also comes with a higher likelihood of a higher sale price down the road when the property gets transformed into its new, higher and better use. But these types of purchases do have to be analyzed on a deal-by-deal basis. And that's not something that can be done here on this broad-based YouTube channel. And most of you watching are not investors, but rather homeowners or looking to become owners, trying to get into the market and make the right decision for not only your investments, but also just your day-to-day life with your family. So in this video, I'm going to look at stats and show you my thoughts about where opportunities might lie for you and your family in the broader sense of the word, and here in my market of Surrey and the Fraser Valley. And I'm going to get into that right after I ask you to please subscribe to stay up to date on the Surrey and Fraser Valley real estate market. And first, let me start off with the guess that the opportunities right now in this falling knife market are in one particular group. And that group right now is the upsizer. It's my guess, and we're going to look at the numbers here, that we are about to find out that moving from a smaller unit to a larger home is likely more advantageous now than it was previously. Now, personally, I get roasted on this channel all of the time for my idea or belief that the lowest payment possible is probably the best thing for you and your family. And that's likely all that should really matter in your purchase. The reason for this is I don't think the average homeowner is really savvy enough, like an investor, to look at total costs of borrowing. And I think you spend most of your time just trying to make sure the books balance at the end of the month. But so many people disagree with me on that, and the only thing that matters to them is that they purchase for the absolute lowest price possible. Well, in that case, I think we're about to find out indeed you maybe should consider a move, or at least open your eyes to the opportunities that are presenting themselves now in the market. So let's hop into the statistics here and take a look at where I think the whole thing is going to come together here for you guys. And so starting off right now, we're looking at the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board as a whole. And that is looking at every property type all the way from North Delta all the way out to Mission and Abbotsford. Condos, detached, everything together. And I'm going to narrow this down within actually, you know what? Just to make it super clear, I'm going to narrow this down within the last year, because buyers a year ago, the first 6 months of that last year, had a really tough time. Now they're having a tougher time, but originally it was to get into the market that was the tough time. Now the cost is the tough thing. So let's dive into this and take a look at the overall. Now, here's where I think it is. I think the upsize is the place you want to be. And remember, my thought is always I want lowest payment because it's the easiest thing for me to think about. I can get on with my life, and most people aren't going to spend their time thinking about real estate. But all the real estate junkies out there that like to talk about asset prices and total cost and investors and all the stuff that Dan likes to talk about on his podcast, well, you have to look at something called total cost. So what matters most to you? Probably the price of the asset and the difference in the actual borrowing and all of that stuff put together. So, what I want to look at here is it a better time? Can I save money by moving now as opposed to what I could have done at the beginning of the year? In order to do that, let's pop in, and I'm going to keep the Fraser Valley board up there as a whole. I'm going to pop in and I'm going to say the city of Surrey. And as example, I'm going to also use the city of Langley as a whole. There we go. We have a year of HPI, or house price index pricing. All right. We got a little bit more than a year. Let's go back and look at July of last year. And the board as a whole was at 925. The city of Surrey was at 958, and Langley was at 944. Then the market peaked. Let me get my pen out here. The market peaked in March. The Fraser Valley was at 1.2. The city of Surrey was at 1.25, and Langley was at 1.18. All right. So they're all very, very close price points. But here's what I want to do even more than that. I want to break this down into, now we've seen the prices come off, right? If you missed my series about Surrey real estate, breaking it down into categories and in the 4 major areas, go back and watch that. The overall marketplace right now, wow, Surrey and Langley really track together. This is detached homes. So let's focus on Surrey and Langley just because they're so close to each other. I want to say that the peak of the market was March, because it for sure was, and Langley was at 1884, and Surrey was at 1895. Now, currently, that number has dropped. Surrey is sitting at 173. So if I do my math correctly, that's $160,000 drop at that point. Langley 172. So again, that's about 150 grand, 160 grand. So let's say they both dropped, for argument's sake, 160,000 bucks. Well, I want to go back now and see what happened with, for instance, in this case, you're probably moving from a townhouse to a detached home if you're doing the move up. Well, if you went from 983, townhouses peaked at 983 in Surrey, and in Langley at, let's call it 900. And believe them, look at this. Langley is sticking around at 925. So Langley has actually increased in price since the peak of the market in detached. So let's say we're doing 20 grand more. So you're actually 20 grand to the plus. Surrey has come back almost $100,000, or basically $100,000. So in Langley, if you're coming from a townhouse and moving up, not only are you still up, not only are you up $20,000 from where the peak of the market was, but the houses have come down, let's call it 150. So you're actually better off by, let's call it $160,000 had you moved at the beginning of the year. Now, my thought is, well, at that point, I would have preferred the lower interest rates, because I do think the market will come back by the time my 5-year fixed rate would be done. But I know a lot of people disagree with me there. Now, Surrey is a little bit different, maybe not as much opportunity if you're moving from a townhouse to that detached house, because, well, unfortunately, you're only going to be better off by about $60,000 right now. And I don't think that $60,000 is necessarily going to be made up for in the difference of payments. So that might actually be a harder move, but holy smokes, is there opportunity in Langley. Now let's pop into apartments and see what we've done there. Now, apartments, again, in Langley, they're doing pretty good. Surrey is really appearing to take the beating right now. But let's look in Langley. We saw 645 kind of at the peak, and we're only down by like 20, let's call it $23,000. So moving to that detached home, if you can get there, is actually looking not that bad, because you've only lost $20,000 and that detached home has come down $100,000. And let's take a look. Now, obviously, the other side of that is the townhouse move up is going to be harder in Langley, but you may want to sacrifice moving from, Langley's beautiful, but right now I would look at this opportunity and go, okay, Langley condos are doing really, really well. Surrey townhouses are in a rough spot compared to where they were. So that could be a move of which you'll be netting more than if you had moved earlier in the year. City of Surrey back in March, let's call it 587, is now dropped down. Well, again, they're taking the hit. They've dropped down by about $45,000. But remember, the townhouse has dropped 100 and the detached has dropped 160. So you're going to be better off. This is the upsizers type of market. But that's only if you can qualify at the new crazy high interest rate payments. They're not crazy high, but they're a lot higher than they were. And that's what drove up the market. So if you can qualify right now and you look at things from a capital cost or an overall purchase price lens, if that's the way you look at things, there are opportunities out there right now, and those opportunities could get better. Now, here's one thing you have to consider, and there may be a very small window of opportunity for that upsizer here, because obviously what happens and what the numbers have just shown is the detached market peaks first. It also takes off first and it declines first, and then the condos slow down. So the condo losses or the condo decrease in price, they are coming. They're not there yet. They're there in Surrey. They're not as much there in Langley. They are coming. So if indeed you can get out now and the current detached homes or townhouses are already further down that road, that is how you can identify opportunity for you. Should you decide that you want to take advantage of, let's face it, what is a pretty depressed market at the moment. I don't think those people that are not yet in the market, for instance, first-time buyers, I think there are still better opportunities the longer you wait, because prices are going to come down, but prices are only going to come down because interest rates are going up. The cool part about prices coming down for you guys is obviously not only do you get the property for cheaper, but less down payment is required when you do purchase the property. I think you guys are going to be in tough because qualification is getting so hard with the stress test. However, I do see future opportunity for you, but I don't think you're there yet. It's coming. Trust me, it's coming. But that's it. That's all I got for you. Let me know if you think I'm being too positive in the marketplace. I'm sure you will down below in the comments and tell me all sorts of terrible stuff. But subscribe anyway. Thank you so much for watching. Click the like button to help me get this information out for more people. If you're looking for the right opportunity within the Surrey and Fraser Valley real estate market, you can book a call with me right now down below in the description with just a few simple clicks at a time that works best for you. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple of days.